Hello, everybody. Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. Joining me today from Hy-Vee right here in Fitchburg. Matt, I mean, she's everywhere at every Hy-Vee in America, but she's here in Wisconsin, and she's our helpful dietitian, Andrea Miller. Welcome back to the show, Andrea. How are you doing in this Heart Healthy Month?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you.
You bet. And with that cue, Heart Healthy is the name of the game today. I'm going to let you tell the audience why it is a Heart Healthy Month, but we're going to go through a lot of things that are good for that ticker. And I'm excited for this episode. As everybody knows, I'm a little on the heavier side, so I'm always up for learning some new things because I'm worried about this guy right in here. So tell us about Heart Healthy Month.
Yeah, so there's a lot of factors that go into heart health. I think that's an important thing to remember. And food is just one of them. So we can do a lot of things to help improve the health of our heart, as well as, unfortunately, cause some, risk factors. But as far as foods, I like to focus on what we have control over and focus on what to eat rather than focusing so much on what to exclude.
And I think that's a great approach. And I know personally that taking that approach has helped me switch some of the foods. It's a slow process for me, but it's a great mental stimulator to get you going and thinking that way. You're sitting in front of fish here. So I suspect that when we're taking a look here, and like you said, there are so many different things to the heart healthy piece, but focusing in two areas today. So tell us what those two nutrients are.
Yes. So as I'm in the seafood department today, we're going to be focusing on omega-3 fatty acids. We hear a lot about this nutrient. It's an essential nutrient, which means that we need to obtain it through food. Our body cannot create it on its own. And then we're also going to talk about kind of on the other end of the spectrum, we're going to talk about fiber.
Yeah, fiber, that one always gets me. So we'll spend some time over there. First, on the omega-3 is essential. First thing that always comes to me, do I need to take a fish pill? Like that always is like in the aftertaste of gross. But why omega-3s?
So omega-3s, like I had mentioned, they're an essential nutrient. They do help with the overall health of our heart, as well as, very importantly, the health of our blood vessels. So when our vessels are in good health, our heart just functions better and less stress is put on the system. So omega-3s help a lot with that. And so we're going to find omega-3s mainly in the fatty fish. So to answer your question about supplementation, we really just need about 2 3-ounce portions a week to get the amount of omega-3s that we need. So you don't have to eat fish every day. And so we're going to talk about, different options too, if you don't like fish or if you're allergic to fish. And so just to kind of put that into perspective, 2 3-ounce portions a week. If you can work up to that, you're getting enough of the omega-3s that you need. That's an American Heart Association recommendation. And then you don't need to further supplement on top of that.
Yeah, and when we're talking about fish, the first thing that I think, and I was telling you that I've been doing some research over at the American Heart Association, and they tell you, and I'm sure you tell folks too, it's important to buy foods that, last long on the shelf, but or you can get the most meals out of them, that sort of thing. When we're talking about fish, the first concern that I have when buying it is how long will it last? So you're sitting in front of a fresh fish case there. When and how fast should you use that versus a frozen fish if we're going to try and get this into our diet?
Yeah, very good question. So if we're buying out of the fresh case, I would say the best practice would be to cook that same day or the next. The difference is fish and seafood is quite delicate. And so this is also a case where frozen fish or seafood isn't necessarily bad. It's kind of similar to the likes of fresh vegetables and frozen vegetables. So the seafood and fish is caught and then frozen shortly after. So it's kind of fresh frozen if you look at it that way. And so the freezer is being used to preserve that delicate protein. So it's not such a bad thing to consume or to purchase frozen. You have it, it'll stay longer for you. It's not as perishable that way. And so I would look at purchasing, if you're going to season it yourself, purchasing it raw, frozen, and then you can do your own seasoning to it and it'll act very similar to fresh. In fact, because it is so delicate, sometimes you can even cook it while it's still partially frozen or from frozen state, which is kind of a convenience as well.
Yeah, I know I bought a lot of cod and frozen cod, and that exact method, it doesn't have to be completely thought out for cooking it. And leaning towards that, when you're saying fatty fishes, define that out, because we're in Wisconsin, we like a good fish fry.
Yes.
And usually that's a cod thing, not a salmon.
Yes, that's a very good distinction to make. So when I say fatty fish, I mean inherently the fish itself. So it's interesting because fish and seafood is different than when we think of other animal proteins, where we try to moderate the fat coming in or choose leaner versions most of the time of animal meats. With fish and seafood, the omega-3s are in the fat itself. And so the fat in fish and seafood is different than that in animal, beef, pork, chicken skin, that kind of thing. It's different. And so what you're thinking is the fish itself is a fatty fish, which is salmon, mackerel, lake trout, albacore tuna, sardines, herring. Those are just some examples of fatty fish. Interestingly and sadly for our state on Fridays, deep frying fish is probably the one cooking method that kind of cancels out the health benefit of the fish itself. So if we can kind of moderate that, if we could moderate that to maybe every few weeks or, once every 6 weeks, and then in between having the non-deep fried fish, that's a good practice health-wise.
Yeah, and I know as it's gone on in time, the Friday night fish fry, there are definitely a lot more options out there for baked cod than there ever was before. So don't fret if you're out there and you're trying to get on this diet and you're like, well, I'm going to go to a fish fry, and they're not going to. Yeah, there's usually a pretty good choice on that front.
Yeah.
For those like my wife who are completely allergic to seafood and everything surrounding it. What do you have for those folks?
Yes, so there's plant foods that have some omega-3s in them. It's not the same level as the fish variety, but walnuts are a great source. Flaxseed and chia seed are also good sources. So if you could, lean in that direction and get the nutrient that way, those are other alternative sources.
Fantastic. Well, I want to save some time for fiber because it gets a bad rap in some fronts, but I think fiber and I think internal movement, we'll leave it at that. Fiber, important for the heart because?
Yes, so there's 2 different types of fiber. That's good to know. The even better thing is we need both of them. So it's not like you have to avoid one or the other. So the 2 types are insoluble and soluble. So insoluble is the stuff that is kind of related more to digestive health. So that's like skins, seeds, kind of the roughage of food. That's the insoluble. Soluble is the sticky kind of fiber. That's the fiber that's linked to heart health. So think of oatmeal, the inside of fruits, like the inside of an apple, pear, peach, beans or legumes. That kind of internal sticky fiber, that's the kind that's linked to, it can remove excess cholesterol out of the system. That's why it's linked to heart health. So that's the difference.
I have never heard it described in the professional way like that, but that just instantly told me I'm going to start eating my oatmeal every day. Quickly, you do have a couple of recipes that I do want to share because your recipes are always so good. Let's start with, as long as we're talking about fiber, this baked oatmeal, which I am dying to try.
Yes, so that's a great one to kind of mix up oatmeal a little bit. I really encourage, balance is key throughout the week. So I encourage people, if they do like egg-based or meat-based breakfast, to maybe do those half the week, and then the other half do like an oatmeal or a grain-based breakfast. That's a good way to balance your animal and your plant proteins, but also to get some more fiber in. And so this is a great dish where you bake it in a square pan, and then you just cut it into squares, and then you can heat it up throughout the week. So it's one easy way to get an oatmeal, and a little different than eating, a bowl of hot oatmeal.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And the idea of being able to reheat it, cook it and then eat it, reheat it, always a bonus. I think in my world, it's cook once, eat twice.
Yes.
Which is probably bad in its own self. For the fish recipe, sriracha salmon.
Yes.
Well, grains and green bowls, all of these things sound good.
Yes. So this one, the sriracha gives the salmon a great flavor. It's good to kind of test out different flavors with salmon, because that can be kind of a love or hate for people with the taste. But you do want salmon to have a fresh kind of neutral scent and taste to it. So kind of keep that in mind. That's a quality issue. But this recipe uses lime juice and zest and sriracha, which also help keep it moist and tender at the same time. And then putting it over some cooked grains and greens and kind of mixing it together. So I really encourage you to try this one. This is a great one to get all of your nutrition right in one bowl.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. And it gets you thinking about the heart there. I love the information, Andrea. If people want to learn more about getting heart healthy or just getting healthy, how can they do that?
Yes, so we're including the link that goes right to my landing page on Hy-Vee.com, or anyone can search dietitians off our homepage, and then when you enter either of our cities or the state, you'll get me. And I can help with virtual services. There's also a lot of seafood recipes online as well on Hy-Vee.com. And so sometimes seafood is the cooking it is what scares people off. And so there's a lot of different recipes to try as well.
Yeah, when we talked about fish last year, I went out and bought a bunch, and then I learned the hard way on different cooking types and how quickly that stuff dries out. So you got to be careful on that front, but we'll save that for another day. Andrea, thank you so much for the tips. Always fun to get talking healthy with you.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. Andrea Miller from Hy-Vee here, all locations in the area, but we exclusively like her here in Fitchburg. Take a quick break. More to come. You're watching Talking Fitchburg.